just got done watching Evil Dead Rise, one of my most anticipated films for this entire year, and I have to say, with true of heart, that I expected a little bit more from this one. That doesn't mean that I didn't like the movie, because The Evil Dead is my favorite horror franchise of all time. It just has a high bar to hit for me, and it did hit a lot of those high moments, but when I say that I wanted more from this entire film, I mean that in some of the best ways and some of the worst ways, and we're going to talk all about that today, but I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. Are you a fan of the Evil Dead franchise? Are you excited for Evil Dead Rise? Let me know down below, and look forward to an Evil Dead movie ranking this week. I love ranking movies and just talking movies on a daily basis, so if you truly are a nerd like me and you need a place to talk films and TV on a daily basis, this is the spot for you guys. But what's the Evil Dead Rise about? Well, it's a twisted tale of two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish versions of family imaginable. This is directed and written by Lee Cronin, and of course, it's produced by Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi. They were heavily involved when in the making and creating of this film, and that gave me some signs of hope. And specifically, what gave me a lot of signs of hope is when this film was originally supposed to go on streaming and HBO Max bumped it up to theatrical, or should I say Warner Brothers bumped it up to theatrical. I had a friend who saw this at a test screening last year. He was raving about it, but the one thing that came out of saying this, and he's just like me, massive Evil Dead fan, he said, "This is my least favorite Evil Dead film." And I said, "Really now?" Interesting, because I like each and every one of the movies in this franchise to love the movies in this franchise. This is one of the ones that I would falter a little bit lower, and I don't think that happens to do with anything with the directing or the writing. I think it's actually just a couple different departments that kind of lacks from that magic of that original trilogy. But I do like talking about my pros before we get into any of my negatives, so let's start with that. And one of the things I definitely want to talk about in this film is the performances, because Lily Sullivan in here is an all-star. Always need one of those all-stars when it comes down to a horror movie or a horror franchise. That way, specifically, you have someone to root for. And within The Evil Dead, we've had some amazing characters, whether it's Ash Williams from the original trilogy and the show, or even look at his companions in the show. Those were characters that you could all root for the entire way through. In the 2013 remake, while I didn't love all the characters in there, I thought Mia was a phenomenal character to cheer on for. We'll go on as far as say that Lily Sullivan joins that route of characters that you definitely want to clamor for, and she's great, and I think she brings a lot of charm to this role specifically. I think a lot of shout outs also need to be given to Alyssa Sutherland, who plays her sister, who is the first one to get possessed. If you've seen the trailer, you obviously see that she is the mother of these children, and she goes to town as a deadite. It is absolutely ferocious, and I love the material that she was given, but also in the way that she clamors and plays it off, whether it was the line delivery to just the way that she moved her body. And a lot of that goes to any other deadites you might see in here, because specifically when you've seen an Evil Dead movie, if someone gets injured, they might become crazy as well. I think a lot of shout outs need to be given to the rest of the cast in here, because each and every one of the members who does become a deadite in here really goes for it, and they make some interesting developments to each and every one of them, and I love that. Honestly, when you come to an Evil Dead movie, you don't go for just the characters. They are more just there as supporting, and honestly, for me, nothing will ever surpass Ash Williams for this entire trilogy and overall the franchise. What we do come for is the blood, the gore, the guts, and the deadites. Of course, sometimes a boomstick and a chainsaw, and this film has all the different elements that you want from the Evil Dead. When it comes down to all that, when it comes down to the mythology, the lore, the Book of the Dead, and every single one of those natures. In fact, Warner Brothers sent me one of my own Book of the Dead that I did an unboxing for. You should absolutely go check it out. I love the mythology that they actually add into here that adds on to the entire world of what we already know inside the Evil Dead. I thought that was actually one of the coolest aspects for this movie, and I wish they would have dove into it a little bit deeper and maybe threw a couple more hints towards other things that we've already seen in this franchise. Again, the blood, the gore, the guts, all of that is there, and it is exceptionally amazing. But what I love that Lee Cronin actually did here, and I think this will be different for a lot of different people, specifically in what you are looking for. I know a lot of people who actually prefer the 2013 remake and think that's, again, I know it's blasphemy, but I know people who think that is the best version of the Evil Dead, and there's others who think, you know, it's missing a little bit of the charm and the kookiness from that original trilogy, and I think Lee Cronin did as good of a job as you could do balancing both. And I say that because a lot of the kills in here, there's specifically one to do with an eyeball that is straight up Sam Raimi. And I loved it. But then there's a couple others in here where I'm like, yeah, that feels more like in line with the remake of what we had got with the gritty and the gore. It comes as far as say, I really dug a lot of the kills in here. I dug the moments with the chainsaw, of course, that we've seen from the trailer, and that brutality and blood that comes from it all. Lee Cronin did an amazing job shooting this movie, specifically in what you can now do with modern day technology, and the way that he honors a lot of Sam Raimi's intelligent and unique shots back in the day, whether it's the chasing camera of the camera panning forward, or in general when you see certain elements in how the Deadites and the demons and of course the Book of the Dead all work. All of those elements make for this film to be a very shot and efficiently uniquely looking movie inside the Evil Dead, and I think there's maybe a discussion to be said that this might be the best looking Evil Dead film yet. I think if you're going into this wanting another twisted, fun Evil Dead movie, that is exactly what you are going to get here. But that doesn't mean that it is a perfect Evil Dead movie, and it's not one that I think might leave some people wanting more. Now, I mean that in two different categories. One, I want more of this main character. I want more of this world. I want more Evil Dead films in general, because I think they're one of the most unique horror franchises out there. But I also left wanting more in a couple other departments, and I think one, this doesn't go towards Lee Cronin. This just goes as me as an Evil Dead fan, but I found myself missing a little bit of the charm. And the reason I say that charm is because while our main character is very charming and you can cheer for her the entire way through, the one aspect that this film really tries to do, and I give credit to where credit is due, I just don't think it worked fully, was trying to develop and make you care about the family. And that is a detriment to where this is an hour-and-a-half film and you do feel that length. You do feel the slow build up to it all, and after just binging through all of the other Evil Dead films, this is the slowest moving one. And specifically because I don't feel like the kookiness and the craziness really kicked in until about 40 minutes in. Which at that point, we're already almost done with the movie, almost halfway done. So I feel like the film does drag a bit in the beginning. But then once you finally get into it, that's where it starts to really divulge. And I think this might be different for some people. I expected it to be a little bit more gory and a little bit more brutal. And maybe that's just because the last one I did just watch was the 2013 remake, which I found to still be the goriest out of all the Evil Dead films. And maybe this one was again trying to hone in back to those early days of the Evil Dead and when they originally came out, to of course the more modern day stuff as well, which I'm all for, and I like that Lee Cronin shot for that, and even sometimes the film in the way that it's stylized and made feels like an old school horror film, which I really dig that. I did expect a little bit more from the kills personally, specifically even thinking on it more afterwards. Like the cheese grater scene, I honestly did not think it was that bad. And I'm the type to scream and wince and go, what the hell am I watching right now? But I didn't get that too often throughout a lot of the different kills and the moments in here. I like how a lot of it's shot, but specifically, it kind of lost it a little bit for me in those moments. No, there are awesome moments in here. I kind of sat there and I was like, okay, I expected a little bit more. And that's my thing. I think this is a good starting point if you were to start another Evil Dead trilogy here. If you were to continue this story with new characters or in general this world, that would be cool. I even think there would be a unique aspect to really touch into the anthology of it all. But when you look at Evil Dead Rise, it's a good, solid horror film that you can have a bunch of fun with. And I think if you're an Evil Dead fan, you're going to have a blast with this movie. If you've never seen an Evil Dead movie, there's a chance you might hate it, because it might not be your cup of tea. But maybe this will be the film that introduces you to the world. Because, hell, you know what? For the longest time, Army of Darkness was my favorite Evil Dead film. And that's because it was the very first one that I ever saw. Take that as what you will. Evil Dead Rise left me wanting more. Surely an awesome time in a lot of ways, specifically the third act, which goes really hard. Some of the coolest Deadite creations are in there in that third act, and I truly cannot express it enough. The makeup, the prosthetics, specifically something that you see in that third act is one of the coolest things that we've ever seen in anything Evil Dead. Game, movie, show, whatever you want to say. A lot of the film just didn't give me that magical feeling that the rest of the franchise has. Maybe my expectations got the best of me for this one, since it is my favorite horror franchise of all time. Even in the theater, I kind of just expected myself wanting a bit more. In two different categories. One, wanting more Evil Dead films and more like this and more opportunities. And the other side making me go, okay, that was a good first installment. Let's see where this goes next. I'm happy that this is in theaters. I will greatly go see it again, because maybe my expectations will bump this up on another rewatch, or maybe it'll lower it. Still think this is a solid, good entry in the Evil Dead franchise. It's just not the one that I thought was going to be, oh my god, second, or maybe even the best one yet. If you watch my channel for a lot, you know I go into a lot of things positive, and maybe even sometimes come out, but I do have to walk out of this going, you know, I was a little bit disappointed in some categories, but I still enjoyed it for what it was, and I thought it was an awesome time, but it did leave me wanting more. So with all that said, I'm going to give Evil Dead Rise a B. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. Make sure to leave me your guys' thoughts down below. Look forward to a lot more movie reviews and, of course, that ranking. And, of course, until next time, stay classy.